This podcast is brought to you by Flipper, a marketplace to buy and sell websites, stores, and digital real estate. Plot your own path. Become a boss by buying a small online business at Flipper. Simply visit flipper.com/techtalks for a free consultation and 50% off fees. That's FLIPPA, flipper.com/techtalks. If you do visit, let me know how you get on. But now, let's get the show started.
Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where every day I explore how technology is forcing entire industries to evolve and adapt with the digital landscape. And today's guest fits that mission perfectly. I also just want to take a quick moment to say that it's a big day today because, believe it or not, it's the 5th anniversary of this podcast, because this show began life as the tech blog writer, as many of the regular listeners will know, because that was my vocation at the time. After writing tech articles on multiple online platforms, you know the usual suspects, but I won't go into that. But after writing tech articles and struggling with many editors who didn't want me to share startup stories or valuable lessons behind it, and especially didn't want me saying anything nice about startup founders and businesses, I thought, you know what, I'm going to create my own platform and prove to the world that good news sells too, and maybe, just maybe, we can teach each other a few things along the way too. And fast forward 5 years, here we are in 2020, and you lovely people are listening in 165 countries. There's a 6-week waiting list for guests, which meant that we became Tech Talks Daily. And those cynical editors who just wanted clickbait titles and more listicles are finally being caught out, because I think we're all craving now to want to build the change that we want to see in the world, rather than just cranking out another 4 ways to be a better entrepreneur. And also, for those of you that don't know, I recently launched 2 other podcasts which you can subscribe to. Don't worry, they're both only fortnightly, so I know you've got more than enough on your hands with this Daily Tech podcast. But if you did want a little bit more, you can also find my work with Citrix, because we released Tech Fusion by Citrix Ready. You can find that on your podcast player. The last interview was with NVIDIA, which is quite a cool one. But also this week, I've just launched a brand new podcast with Netgear called Switched On Thinking. And both of those podcasts with Netgear and Citrix carry very similar themes to this show, because that's what I do. But I try to get into conversations with Citrix and Netgear and their partners on both of those shows to try and understand how technology is building a future that will affect our work, our lives, and indeed world. So that's 3 podcasts you've got there, but it's a common theme throughout. Maybe I'm a one-trick pony, I don't know, but enough celebrations from me. Let's get today's episode started. The first wheel was invented over 5,000 years ago to help move something that one person just couldn't move alone. And here in 2020, a company called Wheel represents just that. A commitment to moving the healthcare industry forward together with clinicians, organisations and patients, all playing an integral role. Essentially, Wheel is enabling the highest quality virtual care to be delivered affordably and sustainably, changing the way healthcare works, all by leveraging technology. So today, I invited Wheel CTO Chris Norris onto the podcast to learn more about their simple vision for the future and how they're helping clinicians and the industry deliver better care for all by leveraging technology. So buckle up and hold on tight so I can beam your ears all the way to Texas so we can speak with Wheel CTO Chris Norris. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, thanks, Neil. Happy to be here. I'm Chris Norris, CTO at Wheel. Wheel provides a platform for on-demand virtual care. For those not familiar with the term virtual care, it essentially means anything where technology helps people get healthcare without a visit to a clinic or an emergency room. And our technology makes Wheel a turnkey solution for companies looking to provide virtual care and helps them connect in real time to our 50-state network of board-certified clinicians.
Now, I invited you on the podcast today to talk about Wheel. Before we go into solution mode, can you tell me a little bit more about how the medical industry is behind on technology innovation?
Yeah, maybe before we talk about the current situation, I'd love to talk for a moment about the future a little bit. There was a great quote on our blog recently along the lines of, in 2 years' time, telemedicine will just be called medicine. And this realization was one that really clicked with me. And I draw a close analogy to banking, or at least how banking was. My bank is always sending me surveys about how they can make their branches better. And I always want to reply that I don't want to go to your branches. Let me bank on my convenience, on my terms, on my devices. And while to me, this is obviously the same way that healthcare is headed, unfortunately, the technology today is failing both clinicians and patients. In the US, at least, technology in the medical industry is very strongly aligned to the needs of the healthcare systems and insurers to support the ability to bill for their services. And that's really what the technology is centered around. And in a poll by Stanford Medicine recently, more than 90% of the respondents felt that their EHR systems, their electronic health record systems, had little to no value for clinical decision support. And that's pretty crazy to hear that all this data that's being collected is really not about making people's health better. And a more visceral example is I read an article by a telehealth journalist who was observing a doctor on their rounds at hospital, and the doctor needed 4 assistants to follow them around to perform data entry and retrieval. And if clinicians don't have that kind of assistance, they're spending hours a day personally on data entry. And for me, this is just a crazy situation that technology should be a burden for them. And for me, that's the exact opposite of what it should be. And the second thing, again, strongly centered on the US, is that innovation is being stifled by the healthcare regulatory environment. It hasn't caught up with what technology is capable of. So, for example, a clinician licensed in Texas can't treat a patient in New York. And so it's very hard to meet increasing patient demand and to keep your complexity of managing that workforce and providing consults in all 50 states without a solution like Wheel. And so, those are a couple of examples of the current landscape and where the current technology, frankly, just supports and perpetuates the status quo. And we really think it's ripe for disruption and innovation. And the companies that realize this the fastest are going to be the winners in the coming years, in my opinion.
And there's so many great points there. And like you say, it is so far left behind, and the banking analogy is spot on. So my question to you is, how are you changing the way that healthcare works and helping to deliver virtual care at scale by leveraging technology?
Yeah, it's a bit of a paradigm shift. Like in the current world of healthcare, people are used to thinking about care being delivered locally, a brick and mortar location like a hospital or a clinic down the road. But increasingly, companies are realizing the power of telehealth as a tool to engage and add value to their customers. And interestingly, we're getting approached by companies who are realizing the benefit of that to their employees as well. And so we work across a lot of different brands, not just traditional healthcare providers. We work with retail clinics, pharmacies, labs, health plans, digital health companies, and like I say, just modern, forward-looking companies that realize the value of telehealth. But here's the problem they face, and where Wheel comes in is, if you want to offer virtual care services, it's really expensive, complex, and inefficient to manage a clinical workforce and build the medical consult infrastructure required to meet patient demands across all 50 states in the US. And all the clients we're working with are running fast, trying to innovate, and we can support and enable them to move faster. So getting to what Wheel does exactly. So we have a simple technology integration connected to a marketplace of clinicians, and we can connect those top quality, well-trained clinicians to deliver a high standard of care for those consults literally on demand. And I always jokingly refer to our first product as Uber for clinicians, but it really is a revolutionary approach to managing virtual care without geographic limitations, while also remaining compliant. So that's really the power of what Wheel does. And I think another common assumption that I want to get to is that telehealth, most people, when they think of telehealth or telemedicine, they think, oh, it's a video call with my doctor. And that's certainly a part of it, but it's much more than that. The bit of virtual care that I'm personally excited about is the possibilities around remote patient monitoring for chronic conditions like diabetes or heart arrhythmias, where clients' health can be monitored without constantly having to go to the doctor's office. And that means it's game-changing for quality of life of patients, but it also creates a new healthcare delivery model for clinicians to engage with remotely. The clinicians no longer have to be sitting in a clinic or a hospital to be able to connect to patients. And there are amazing companies innovating here on these patient niches and the physical devices, and we're innovating on the intelligence, analytics, and clinician experience to kind of join those two worlds and create an opportunity for really high quality medical decision making. And I like to put simple analogies in people's heads, and the one I think of as for Wheel's platform is to think of us as the AWS of healthcare. We provide this flexible modular foundation for delivering virtual healthcare, and that innovation that Wheel has done around how to get access to a clinical workforce on demand is really the starting point and the springboard for creating more building blocks around virtual care.
And before you came on the podcast today, I did a little bit of research on Wheel. And what really stood out for me was that your mission is about scaling services while empowering clinicians and not replacing them. But can you tell me a little bit more about that mission and the role of tech working alongside professionals?
Yeah, good observation in your research. I think it's often a misconception that virtual care is about replacing clinicians with computers or AI. And we see it more as like, how do you use technology to amplify each clinician's impact? There's going to be no point where you can eliminate humans from healthcare. There's always needs that kind of human in the loop. But we believe the only way to transform the healthcare industry is by focusing on the people at the heart of it and the clinicians on the front lines. And I do want to give a quick shout out to any clinicians listening to this podcast. Thank you so much for being on the forefront of the fight with COVID. We kind of see it every day through our own executive medical director who still practices in a hospital. I know he says his teams are tired and want it to all be over, but I just want to thank them for continuing to be on the front lines there. Getting back to the question, Wheel gives clinicians more freedom and balance in their medical careers by improving their experience and providing them access to opportunities in virtual care. They're very grateful to us that we can give them more flexibility to spend more time at home with their kids and work nights or weekends on a schedule that works for them. And we can also help clinicians reach more patients and give them data to make the best clinical decisions and ultimately improving outcomes for patients and driving down costs. One stat that stood out to me when I was researching virtual care was that of the people that engage with a telehealth solution as their first port of call, instead of going to a doctor's office or an emergency room like they might normally do in the US, 90% of those people can be triaged at that step without them having to ever see someone in person. And the outcome for that and the impact on the clinicians, it means the clinicians can be spending their super valuable time on the most critical patients. So that was something that really, really stood out to me.
And can you tell me a little bit more about the power of data and analytics to reveal virtual care patterns and insights that could exponentially improve how healthcare is delivered? Because I think that is the real game changer moment too, isn't it?
Yeah, referring back to that stat I talked about earlier, it's like 90% of clinicians see no value in the data they collect in clinical decision. They see the systems they use to collect data as playing no part in clinical decision making, and I think that's like as a technologist, that makes me want to shed a tear a little bit. Applying big data and analytics to healthcare information, like you say, could be a game changer. And I think there are two axes that are important there. One is being able to go deep, so looking in detail at the health of each individual. And helping them manage their health faster, better, and more cost effectively. So that might be around remote patient monitoring, things like that. Or secondly, going broad and looking at the health of populations or groups and doing both of those things or either of those things continuously, not just at infrequent points in time when you feel ill and go to the doctor. And the brick and mortar healthcare system is really set up to address short-term acute care and not to manage conditions that require long-term ongoing care. And that's where technology can really help and make that cost-effective. And maybe taking each of those cases individually, so they're going deep and looking at the health of individuals. We can ingest data from wearables and medical devices, so that there are devices, if folks are not familiar with it, like continuous glucose monitors for diabetics or continuous blood pressure monitors, continuous heart monitors that can feed data continuously and real time into systems like ours. And then you can apply the trend analysis, anomaly detection to give feedback to the patient and allow a much faster cycle of responding to issues. And with technology like Wheels, with this kind of on-demand clinician capability, we could literally bring in a clinician to assess new data or worrying anomalies in seconds or minutes, not days. So that's kind of a game changer. And secondly, I talked about going broad and applying analytics to groups or populations. I think there are a number of exciting potential things there, like looking at which treatments have the best outcomes for which conditions, seeing which clinicians are most effective and why, spotting disease outbreaks and health trends. And another particularly interesting one is maybe the ability to run and observe large-scale clinical studies. So those are just a few examples to put it into your head, a picture of where we're headed.
I've had countless emails from listeners over the last few weeks talking about their fears and concerns around job security, while also seeing their interest rates on their savings drop considerably. And as a result, many are beginning to look at how they can invest in their future in an uncertain time. Could digital assets be the answer? Now, you might remember that I spoke to Blake Hutchinson, CEO at Flipper, on episode 1194 about how to buy digital assets and websites. In a nutshell, Flipper is a marketplace that you can buy and sell websites, stores, and digital real estate that are just ready to go. So if you do have dreams of running your own successful online business, or perhaps you're looking to exit your existing online business, my friends at Flipper can help you buy and sell. So if you're interested and want to find out more, please visit flipper.com/techtalks. That's FLIPPA.com/techtalks for a free consultation and also 50% off all fees. But now, back to the interview. And there's so many other great things you're doing as well. One thing I'd love for you to highlight, if you could tell me a little bit more about the process of taking startups through rapid growth phases by maintaining a fast pace of forward progress while cultivating a transparent culture. Because again, it just feels incredibly forward thinking.
Yeah, I've been super lucky in my career that I've been now in 4 startups in a row that have gone on to an exit of some kind, and I've kind of seen a lot of what it takes to be successful. And I'll tell you what a lot of people in Silicon Valley won't, which is that there's a healthy dose of luck and timing in making a startup successful. But the one common thread, I think, is around the people. Everything starts with hiring the right people. And I look for certain core behaviors, which I think, or traits that I think are signs of maximizing your chances of success. So I look for people that show ownership of what they do. Like, do they really care about what the goals are and driving towards them, and being involved in coming up with the best solutions? Do they just have an inherent drive to make an impact? You know, they're not clocking in, clocking out 9 to 5. They really want to make sure that every hour they spend at work is driving towards a goal of some kind. Look for strong collaboration skills. Startups have a lot of ambiguity in them by their nature, and you need people that can work effectively together, put their egos aside, and just all focus on trying to do the best for the company. And then last but not least, some level of craftsmanship. I want people that care about how things are done and want to do things right, but that also recognize that you need to be pragmatic at times. But when we are being pragmatic, we're doing it deliberately by choice, not just because it's chaotic or we're hackers. And then the other side of people is the leaders. I'm a strong believer in leaders need to be servant leaders and need to know each person as individuals and position them to be doing their best work every day. And if you don't have the right people, no amount of process or quote unquote culture will fix those problems. Big believer in enabling autonomy, set clear goals and allow teams to operate autonomously and independently against them. And operationally, I subscribe to the lean startup model. You've got to build, learn, and iterate as quickly as possible. And I always tell my teams to be looking for the next smallest step we can take that will either unlock some business value or allow us to learn something new. And that operating principle applies not just to engineering, but every group in the company. And last but not least, you asked about a transparent culture. As far as transparency goes, everyone just has to live and breathe it. But in particular, the leaders and the managers, the hidden meaning behind being transparent is ensuring we're communicating the bad as well as the good. And you just have to foster kind of psychological safety and always be encouraging feedback and input. And you've got to show that when a problem surfaces, that it's a good thing, not a bad thing. And if you've hired the right people and achieved the right culture, when a problem comes to light, you should have people lining up to ask, how can I help? Not looking to assign blame. And it's actually one of the things I look for. Top thing I look for joining any company is the people and the culture and all those aspects I talked about.
And something else that really shines is the increasing importance of empowering teams to focus on the experience of the end users, clinicians and clients. And again, that banking analogy really comes to front of mind. But in your case, obviously, to build the best possible healthcare solutions, is that something you can expand on too?
Sure. Yeah. Wheel is a clinician-first company. It's right on our website. And what we mean by that is that when we have a choice to make between two otherwise equal paths, we'll choose the one that puts the clinician's experience and needs as a priority. And like I said earlier, we think that's really going to be the core of driving change in this industry, is like putting the clinicians first. And it since I've started at Wheel, I've been kind of looking at other competitor solutions or potential vendors we might partner with, and it really makes my eyes bleed to see some of the so-called best-in-class software that clinicians have to use today. So it's really not hard to build empathy for them quickly. And I should also say that user experience has become intertwined with technology today, but it really goes beyond that. That is super important and something for sure we care a lot about as we're building out our technology, but it's also how you support and engage with our users outside technology. So an important product principle for us is to never lose the kind of human experience through a virtual care engagement. So making sure you're treating your patients with empathy and the human touch, that's super important, particularly for behavioral health, mental health. Also, are we making it easy for our clinicians to be efficient, get help with problems they're encountering? And we're also actively work on, how do we help clinicians increase their value with training and education and credentialing, and ultimately by focusing on the experience of all our end users, clients, clinicians, and patients, and driving friction out wherever we can. It's my strong belief that your platform becomes sticky and demand goes up. Like, I want to be the point where patients are asking for virtual care experiences powered by Wheel, and clinicians are saying, I love Wheel because I know that they're going to provide me the best experience. And when you get those two things, revenue follows.
And we began this interview talking about our frustrations with how the healthcare industry is behind in technology innovation. But looking forward, what excites you about the future of technology and innovation across the healthcare industry?
Yeah, this question makes me smile because I was under the misconception that a job in healthcare meant being slow-moving, bureaucratic, uninnovative. And as I explored the opportunity with Wheel, I came to learn that it's the exact opposite in this virtual care space. It's really an unsolved problem today, and it's full of fragmented, dated, and frankly terrible technology. And it's a real opportunity to upend and rethink how people get healthcare. We're on a big upswing with more innovation than ever before. By any measure, there are tens of billions of dollars going into healthcare tech deals in the last 5 years. And it always feels odd to say it, but one positive side effect of COVID is that US healthcare telehealth regulations have changed overnight as the huge value of virtual care has been more widely understood. And there's no one I talk to that doesn't think the US healthcare system is broken, and receiving healthcare in the US is frustrating, expensive, and really opaque. And the UK, as you know, has a national healthcare system, which has its own problems for sure. But I knew that when I sought healthcare in the UK, I wouldn't have to fear crippling bills or potential bankruptcy, which is a terrible reality in the US. And I'd love to be part of helping healthcare be easily and inexpensively accessible to everyone.
And what role do you see Wheel playing in that future that we're shaping here and that you've just created that vision of?
Yeah, I'm excited to be on the path with Wheel, to be that AWS for virtual care. We want to be the technology hub that accelerates virtual care innovation. We found traction with a successful product around easily managing that on-demand workforce, but there's lots of possibilities ahead, and we have a driven team of smart people with a wonderful clinician workforce who are excited to innovate. And there's a quote that really stuck in my mind recently, and it was the best minds of my generation are working out how to get people to click more ads, and that sucks. And at the risk of sounding cheesy, I wanted to contribute to putting my knowledge and experience towards making a real difference in the world. And when I found the wheel, it really stood out to me that they have a real chance of doing that.
Well, I cannot thank you enough for taking the time to come on and share your vision with us all today. But for anyone listening that would like to continue to follow your journey, can you just remind them of where they can find you online and also contact your team if they have any questions?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm on LinkedIn. Look me up, Chris Norris. Happy to connect with anyone and continue these conversations. But more importantly, the company website is wheel.com, WHEEL.com. And I am hiring great technical minds. So if there are any software engineers out there that would like to join our mission, then please check out our job postings at wheel.com/careers.
Excellent. Well, I'll add all those links to the blog post that will accompany this episode. Hopefully we can help find you some good people out there too. But more than anything, just a big thank you for coming on and sharing your story and the power of data and analytics that could reveal virtual care patterns and insights that essentially is going to exponentially improve how healthcare is delivered. It's a huge game-changing moment. I wish you the best of luck on this journey and love to get you back on later this year or next year, see how that journey's going. But thank you for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Neil. It's been good chatting. Thank you.
I just love how Wheel is leveraging technology. And as a result of doing that, they're enabling the highest quality virtual care to be delivered affordably and rapidly, which of course changes the way that healthcare works. And healthcare will move forward. And I love how Wheel is attempting to amplify the impact of virtual care for more patients. And that vision is ultimately rooted in their core mission to change the way healthcare works by simply putting clinicians first, not by replacing them. Food for thought indeed. And I'd love to hear your insights, your experiences and expertise on this very topic, or if you just want to ask me a question, whatever it is, email me techblogwriter@outlook.com or visit my website, techblogwriter.co.uk, where you'll find over 1,270 interviews for your listening pleasure. But I'm afraid we're at the end of this episode, so a big thank you for listening as always, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.